Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a flip through for you today of my completed journal for Behold the Lord from Bythewell4god. As you can see, it ended up quite chunky with all 14 little signatures. I do have a video for the setup of this journal and a couple of the process videos for some of the days in here as well. I will put the link to that playlist down in the description in case you missed that and you want to go back and see those process videos. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. So I created this textured background on my journal here just by adding some gel medium to some paint and then kind of scraping it on with the back of a palette knife. Again, I will link that video down below. And then I just added some, this is unbleached cheesecloth back here, and then some of my shells from some travels that we have done in the past. I just happen to have these little tiny ones and I felt like they were really fun for the front of this. So one of the things I always like to do with the kit sticker, especially when I'm working outside my Bible, is to include this and the date just so that I can reference back to when this was that I worked through this particular devotional. Day one, you can see I have basically a signature for each one of the days of the devotional. This is day one. For day one, I used the pattern paper that came in the kit and I just trimmed it down to the front of my little signature here. And then I used these tile alphas. These are kind of the bigger version that they came out with this month. They were they're on clear sticker paper and they're just larger than the tile alphas and I love them. I was so excited about them and I was glad to see that they brought them out for the next kit as well. I just think that they're a lot of fun. They're just a great size. Really excited about that. And then I used another piece of the pattern paper on the inside here, this one that kind of looked like the wood planks. And I did that so that I could write out Psalm 95. This was one of the readings that from that day. They encouraged us to read all of Psalm 95. So I went ahead and just wrote it out and I just used the lines to kind of help me keep everything nice and straight. And then you'll see throughout this entire journal that I created, I do have the day sticker and then the title starter for each of the days just to keep it kind of consistent along the way. And then I used one of the die cut pieces here as a pocket, and then I just glued some of the fabric. I did actually trim that down a little bit, and I just kind of pleated it just using some glue. I didn't sew it down or anything. And then I have some stenciling in the background that's probably hard to see on camera, but just for a little bit of interest. And a lot of the backgrounds in this journal are actually done very quickly and easily with distress crayons that I put onto a baby wipe and then just wiped it across. It just makes for an easy way to get some color down, especially for this inside because this is really more just a place for me to hold my notes. So day two, I took some chiffon ribbon that I got at Hobby Lobby and it was a little bit wider, so I cut that in half, and then I just kind of layered it with all the different colors to kind of make this little ocean look to this. And then I added this lighthouse on some pop dots, and then I have that same kind of textured background with the distress crayons. And then on the inside, this is actually one of the scripture cards. I used these a lot this month, and instead of doing a separate journal for those or a separate book, I actually incorporated them into this devotional, my journal. And so but this one I had already had the verse over here, so I didn't need to have it kind of repeated twice. So I just took advantage of that and made it into a pocket. And then I have a scripture on the back of this journaling card. I did add a few die cuts here. And then on this journaling card, I actually took the flashcard that was the reference for this day for 1 John 5:20. And I just punched out this word. I have a tab punch and it just happened to fit just perfectly. So I did that for this particular one. And then I have this, which is actually written on this other journaling card. So that's just a flashcard that I wanted to tuck in there. And then again, just some of that distress crayon in the background with some stenciling. Day three, I do have a process video for. I did some distress crayon in the background, and I did some stenciling with the seagrass stencil, and then I did some texture paste, and then on top of the texture paste I had some embossing glaze. So I do have a process video for that. If you want to see that, that playlist will be in the description. And then on the inside I used again the scripture cards that were released with this devotional and used them as pockets. And so it just helped because I had so many notes and scriptures and things. And so in the background you'll see that same repeating seagrass stencil back there, and then I just created a little tuck spot here for another one of the journaling cards or scripture cards, and then the flash cards that have the verses on them, and they're just tucked into that day. Day 4 is a really simple day. I used one of the pattern papers again, and then I just used this fun texture from the kit and made a little bow and glued this on the front just for some extra texture there. And if I can get this to open. Again, I have the day and the title, and then in the background on this one I actually stamped with an old stamp. It was the CMAP stamp that released a couple of years ago. I just liked that stamp, so I pulled that out and just did that in a dark brown, and then again used the scripture cards that you know were released with this kit, and then they hold my flashcard notes here as well. Day 5, I added some grit paste. This is the Distress Tim Holtz grit paste in Crypt, and I do have some color underneath it that I had added with some Distress crayon, and then I have my 2 little pieces and then just another little stamp up here. And I really love how this page turned out, especially because the grit paste has a texture to it, so all these little black flecks, because this was the Crypt version, are in that paste, and so this really just makes it look like sand. So day 5, really simple background. Again, I used the Distress crayon, just swiped it on with a baby wipe, and then I have some of the stamps that I just stamped in, I believe it was pumice stone ink, Distress oxide ink, and then I used the cards again on here, and I used one of the little file folders because there were so many notes and things that I wanted to include, and so I just glued this kind of around my little twine binding here, and I have this with some little paper clips that you could take off if you wanted to. In future days, I actually went ahead and just glued that down, but I kind of liked how that all went together, so I just left that. This is day 6, I believe. Yes. And again, another super simple front. I just added the background pattern paper. I have this verse card and then one of the ephemera pieces. Super simple, but this was one of the days, and I really love this verse, so I put that as the focal image for this day. And then again, I had some from the other verses that were mentioned, and I just did some stenciling. This was the one that kind of looked like the netting. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head. And I did that just with some Distress oxide, and then made pockets out of these verse cards. So I have my journaling cards here with some more scriptures, and I also have my flashcards tucked in there as well. So again, you know, when I make a journal, there's just going to be a lot of pockets and tuck spots for all of my notes. That's just how I like to work through the devotionals. So this is day 7, and again, I have those fun tile alphas there. Another journaling card here, a verse card, and then the pattern paper in the background. On the inside, again, I just used that same Distress crayon technique. Again, you'll probably see that. I think it's on most days. And then I use the little clear stickers for the background on here, and I just kind of tucked them around just for some interest in the background. And then again, the verse cards with the flashcards that have my notes and scriptures on them. Day 8 has, this was a really fun one. I put some fabric down here. These were from the fabric strips that came with the kit this month, and one of the pieces of the lighthouse. And then I had these film strips in my stash, and so what I did is I took the little mini clear stickers and I lined them up and glued them down actually on a piece of Duralar. Then I just kind of lined them up so that they would look like they were part of the film strip, and I just trimmed this down, and I have all of these from those little clear stickers. So I just thought that was a lot of fun. I added one of the little die cut birds here, and then this was another sticker from the set, which was the little postage stamp ones, but the verse didn't match up with this day, so I just kind of offset it. I just felt like this corner needed something to kind of balance everything, and so I just added that up at the top there. I really like how this came together, especially this film strip. It came out surprisingly just kind of the way that I wanted it, which doesn't always happen, so I was excited about that. Anyway, Day 8 on the inside, I have, again, the verse card. I have my scripture, my journaling cards tucked in the back. This is actually one of the file folders, and I have it glued down here at the bottom to keep my flashcards in there, but I also have it glued just on the 2 sides so that I can slip my journaling card back in there. And then this is one of the strips of washi tape, faux washi, that goes along the bottom there. And again, the same distress crayon background. This day was a lot of fun to do as well. This is day 9. I believe there's a process video for this one as well. Yes, there is. So this really awesome background is done with fiber paste. I use the Golden brand, but it makes your paper just have a really interesting texture, but it can also make something so that if you want to be able to do watercolor on it, you can, and you can make it smoother by smoothing it out with the back of a palette knife and some water. But I kept mine really rough so that it would have all of this fun texture, and the colors would kind of pool and everything. And then I used some ultra thick embossing enamel on these die cut pieces just to really give them some dimension. And I really love how the front of this turned out. So day 9 on the inside is the same distress crayon situation. And then again, I have one of the file folders that I just glued around the twine here, and it just has all of my flashcards with their notes tucked in there. This was day 10, and this is actually that same pattern paper from here, from day 1, but I went ahead and took a lighthouse stamp. This is again from an old set, and I just stamped it on here, and I wanted to kind of incorporate it so that it looked more like it was all an actual, like, went together. So I went in with some paint into the actual lighthouse here and painted out the background, because obviously it was showing, you know, the rest of this pattern paper through there. And then I just went through with a black pen and I kind of outlined really sketchy around the rocks and in the waves and everything to kind of mimic some of these really sketchy lines from this lighthouse. And then the birds were actually on the paper already. So I feel like, you know, it came together pretty well. I was pretty happy with how this came out. And I did add some paint down here just to kind of bring the painterly kind of look down here to the bottom. But I just thought that was, you know, don't be afraid to, you know, paint on your papers and add to them, or, you know, just change them in other ways. It's just, it's your paper, so you can do that. So I was actually really happy with how that came out. And then on the inside, again, I have that sea grass stencil in the background. And then this is one of the mini file folders that I have used as kind of a double pocket. So I have my flashcards in this front part, and then a journaling card in the back, one of the verse cards, and another journaling card tucked in there. Day 11, I used another one of these pieces that I had made for the other day. I had done several on that day, and so you'll see these kind of popping up. This is with that ultra thick embossing enamel, and I had a little bit of fabric down here, and then again just a background paper behind this journaling card. And same thing with the inside, the verse cards here, all my stuff tucked in. I did add one of the clear stickers up here just to kind of give it a little bit of interest. This part was kind of blank, you know, kind of empty, since I had the title and stuff over here. This one is day 12. I added a little bit of fabric up here just for some extra texture, but this background paper is probably one of my favorites from this entire kit. I love that paper. And then on the inside, again, I have one of the file folders that I used for a pocket, and this one had a lot of verse cards. So I have several tucked behind here. I have some tucked over here. I have one of the journaling cards. This is one of the 3 that come with the devotional. It had the verse on there already from the devotional, so I tucked that in there. And there's just a lot of scripture for day 12. Day 13, again, you'll see one of those embossing pieces with the ultra thick embossing enamel on there, and the same kind of thing here with the pattern paper and the verse cards, and then again a sticker on the inside. So just kind of repeating some of that process. And day 14, this is the last day. This was actually some trim that was given to me a while back, and I felt really went with this kit. So I used this die cut piece. I did trim this down just a little bit. And then again, those tile alphas, I backed those with some of the pattern paper, and then just kind of roughed up the edges, and it's on there with some foam tape just to give it a little bit of dimension, and also to help it to be able to stick down over this really textural trim there. And then super simple on the inside, I have a die cut piece here that's holding my my notes and my flashcards and one of the verse cards there. So as you can see, I didn't do the back sides of the days. I just really didn't feel the need to do that, but certainly you could if you were interested. I'm fine with them being white on the back. But that is everything. So if you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.